You can see it in the high street shops and the glassy tech hubs, local startups, once full of personality, now operating in total cultural lockstep. Leaked HR policies from an Indian eyewear giant recently revealed strict, homogenized rules for employee attire that feel entirely disconnected from the local streets. These founders aren't choosing this sterile uniformity. To reach a global size, they must seek capital from sovereign wealth funds and venture capitalists who demand these standardized global HR frameworks as a condition of entry. These funds inject hundreds of millions of dollars into a single player, providing enough leverage to open thousands of stores, undercut every local competitor, and force a path toward an IPO. Securing that level of aggressive capital requires one specific, non-negotiable metric: a high ESG score. Environmental, social, and governance compliance has become the gatekeeper of the global markets. The architects of this system are the big three: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Their leverage comes from managing a staggering $20 trillion, dwarfing most national GDPs. This allows them majority shares in 80% of the S&P 500. When they demand behavior, the market listens. While presented as a moral scorecard for a better planet, the financial mechanics suggest a different purpose. ESG serves as a calculated tool for global corporate capture. Control of the world has always rested on resource logistics. During the Second World War, victory depended entirely on a constant, uninterrupted flow of crude oil to the front lines. When the Allies cut off Germany's supply, Hitler's scientists successfully developed synthetic fuels, proving that industrial power could exist without traditional oil monopolies. This innovation posed an existential threat to the Rockefeller Empire, which controlled the vast majority of the world's crude oil infrastructure. If the world moved towards synthetic or alternative fuels, their global monopoly would evaporate. After the war, this control shifted from physical colonies to financial ones. Using the IMF and World Bank, the West began funding developing nations, but only for projects that facilitated the extraction of raw materials. In Guinea, for example, international funding built a massive railway connecting bauxite mines directly to the coast for export, while half the local population remained without basic electricity. As the global South began to industrialize, the West realized that cheap fossil fuels would create a new generation of fierce economic competitors and severe environmental consequences, just like the smog that once paralyzed London. The E in ESG solves this competition problem. By mandating green energy for any company seeking investment, the Big Three force developing nations to abandon cheap coal and oil. Instead, they must buy Western patented technologies, like Danish wind turbines or Swiss high-voltage systems, to even participate in the global economy. Beyond technology, the Big Three require a way to influence how these foreign companies are actually run from the inside. In emerging markets like India, the most powerful conglomerates are often family-owned. Figures like Mukesh Ambani frequently hold 50 to 75% of their company's shares. This concentrated ownership essentially creates a protective shield. Because these founders hold the majority, they can ignore the policy demands of outside Western investors. The G for governance acts as a wedge against this independence. It pressures these families to adopt transparency standards, which effectively means going public and diluting their majority control. Once that ownership is fragmented on the public market, the Big Three sweep up 30 to 40% of the available shares. The original founders lose their autonomy, allowing the asset managers to dictate the company's internal governance. Even with a seat at the table, the Big Three need a punitive mechanism for companies that refuse to follow the global script. The S-score provides that leverage by exploiting the cultural and social complexities of developing nations. This is possible because the Big Three also hold majority stakes in 95% of global media houses and the very agencies that calculate ESG ratings. This creates a closed-loop system of information and valuation. If a company resists, the mechanism activates. A rating agency they own downgrades the company's ESG score. This downgrade triggers negative coverage across their media networks, mobilizing NGOs and providing banks the justification to freeze essential loans. The S-score functions as a built-in compliance mechanism. It is a system designed to tank a company's reputation and market value the moment it drifts from the approved path. The global economy operates as a heavily leveraged market based on compliance. Success is no longer determined by the best idea, but by the ability to follow the Big Three's rules. For the Global South, economic development is strictly bottlenecked by the capital and the technological standards set by the North. The cinematic narrative of ESG saving the world masks a cold reality of financial dominance. It is an invisible architecture that ensures global wealth remains funneled through a specific set of hands. The era of physical colonization has been replaced by a digital one. Empire is now managed through corporate scorecards and international banking standards. Next time a corporation undergoes a sudden cultural pivot or a powerful founder faces a media-driven scandal, look past the headlines and check the ownership. These shifts represent the invisible hand of the Big Three, quietly adjusting the settings of a global empire. And subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that run our